Hi, I'm Patrick Benson here with another video Gnome for you from Gnome Stew, the Game Master's blog. In episode 1, I talked about props, and I touched upon how a puzzle can be a prop. In fact, I showed you this guy and talked about how you could have the different puzzle pieces each be used in a campaign. A series of adventures, whereas the PCs discover each piece and then finally put the puzzle back together as a whole, they would have some kind of reward or some kind of epic event happen. And I want to talk a little bit more about how you can use these physical puzzles in your games. Now, first of all, some ground rules. Good puzzles take time to solve. Don't use them in a time-sensitive situation, because here's a puzzle, and if I turn around and I tell the PCs, hey, if you don't solve this, the dam's going to burst and all of your PCs are going to die as water rushes over all of you. Well, you know what? I'm here trying to do this video, and I know this puzzle, and I've solved it many, many times, and it's a little bit difficult for me to solve this one while I'm trying to play a game, I'm betting, but it's also difficult just here talking, just trying to show you. And okay, there, I got it. And I know the solution already. It took me a little bit of time. But if you put me in a time-sensitive situation and I have no familiarity with this puzzle, maybe, just maybe, you've put me in a no-win situation. Don't do that. Now, puzzles can be difficult, and they can also be built to be deceptive. I mean, that's the nature of a puzzle. So don't punish your players for not understanding a puzzle. Some of the more difficult puzzles are really, based on some unusual principles, such as a classic one is the two horseshoes and a ring. Now, this is like near impossible for someone who hasn't been shown the trick how to solve, unless they're going to spend hours and hours trying to figure it out. And the last thing you want to do is bring one of these into your game and then make your players feel like they're stupid or something because they can't solve it, because these things have been around for a long, long time, and they still sell because people don't know how to solve them. I mean, it's difficult, it's a little tricky, there is a certain finesse to it, okay? But if I turn around and I look at somebody, I hand them that puzzle and I say, geez, you can't figure that out, what are you, stupid? Well, the truth is, I'm the idiot, because here I am putting people into an unfair situation, and it's not right of me to criticize them or judge their intellect based on something that really requires more about a knowledge of the puzzle than a high IQ. So, the more pieces there are, the worse the choice for a puzzle. Here are a couple of wooden puzzles I have. And this one's 18 pieces. I believe this one's 22. And if I give these to the players at the table, it's going to take them forever just to even figure out where all the pieces go. So not only is it bad in that it's just confusing for the players, but think about it this way too. If you have, your battle map, and you have your miniatures and your character sheets and your pencils and your pizza and your Mountain Dew and whatever else you have on the table, and then you have a bunch of puzzle pieces, well, it's going to get lost in the shuffle. They may lose a piece and not be able to solve the puzzle. So try to limit the number of pieces. I prefer something more along the lines of this. It only has 6 pieces, and it's generally a much more simple puzzle. It's a burr puzzle. Basically, there's always a key piece that you remove, and from there you can actually move the different pieces and take the puzzle apart, that sort of thing. But try to stick with simpler puzzles, things with fewer pieces. Now, how to add them to your game? I think a good way to add a puzzle is not to make it something that's focused on the puzzle. Don't turn around and say, well, there's a trap, here's this puzzle. If you can solve this puzzle, the trap won't go off and kill you. That's not really a good idea. That goes back to that time-sensitive situation almost, where you're putting in consequences that aren't really fair. The players have shown up to play a game, an RPG game, not to solve puzzles. So what you want to do is you want to actually accentuate your game by using puzzles. You want to give them simpler puzzles that, here's an item in the game. Let's say an evil NPC's laptop, and you want to hack into it. Now, You can hack into it at any time without really affecting the plot. It may take you days, it may take you a couple of hours in game time. But what we're going to do is we're going to allow you to use this puzzle as an actual representation of how difficult it is to hack this NPC's laptop. And this is a more simple puzzle, right? But for someone who's never used one of these before, they might fumble with it a bit, but I guarantee you this one wouldn't take too long for an adult to figure out. My 7-year-old daughter likes that puzzle. She can figure it out. I'm pretty sure that a table full of gamers can figure it out too. But the point is, take your time, give your players time, and give it as a subplot. It doesn't matter if they never, ever hack that laptop for that NPC. The plot will move forward. But if they do hack that laptop by solving this puzzle, give them a great big reward for it. It's a great idea, right? So, another thing you can do, if the PCs are learning a new technology or deciphering something like an unknown text, again, give them a puzzle, because that's not to represent their character's ability. That is more about showing how sometimes things are just a little bit difficult and take a little bit of time to figure out. And it's also something that's of the unknown. Maybe there isn't a relevant skill in your RPG for that event. You can use a puzzle as long as you stick with the ground rules. Nothing time sensitive and nothing to really punish your players. Now, a lot of these puzzles I got as either a gift or I just picked up for, they're relatively cheap. These things are sold. I think I got 4 of these as a stocking stuffer. My wife told me, yeah, I spent $5 to get you those. I thought you'd like them. And I do. I do like them a lot. And you can get them for relatively cheap. But what I really like about these puzzles is that some of them have things like this bird puzzle has an actual gap by design in the puzzle, and if you use that gap and put a secret message inside of it, you can hand one of these puzzles to the PCs as something as an in-game event to kind of move your plot along. Once they figure out the puzzle and get the secret reward inside, they're going to remember that, and they're going to think that was cool, and plus it may make sense, especially with something like a political drama. So, what are some good things to have in your plot that you could use the puzzle to represent? Well, again, add flavor to the game world. Maybe puzzles are used somehow in the game world for regular communication. I don't know. Be creative. Maybe puzzles are some kind of status symbol that if you can solve this puzzle, people just respect you more. Why not? It's a fantasy game setting or a sci-fi setting. You could probably get away with that. Another thing is that maybe you can make it part of your overall plot arc by having it be something of a prophecy. Remember King Arthur and the legend of how he pulled Excalibur from the stone and nobody else could do it? Give the players a puzzle, and when they solve it, it's fulfilling a prophecy. They're the chosen ones. Chosen of what? I have no idea. Use your imagination. Another thing about puzzles, before I end this, let the PCs use their skills. In other words, the players can roll a PC skill check, and if it's successful, you either solve the puzzle for them or you give the players a big helpful hint or clue. I don't care if you end up doing all the work on the puzzle. If the PCs are making their skill checks or whatever the skill system is or whatever the trait check is in your game, go ahead, solve the puzzle for the players because they're playing the game you agreed to play, the RPG, and you've just given them another option. You can either do this in-game or you can do it out-of-game by using the puzzle. The last thing I want to say is let the players use outside resources. If they have no clue whatsoever on how to solve the puzzle and they want to Google it, go ahead and let them Google it. As long as they don't take away from your game experience and don't take a lot of time, and that's a problem with the puzzle is that it could become a distraction. There's nothing wrong with letting the players use an outside resource. Well, that's all for this episode. Check out Gnome Stew Daily for great GMing advice. And until then, I'm Patrick Benson. This has been your Video Gnomon.